Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
First of all, we sincerely apologize that we are coming a little bit behind schedule. A little bit of technical issues, but here we are. We are balanced and we are definitely set to spice your morning this beautiful Tuesday morning. Today, the 18th day in the month of July 2023. I sincerely like to apologize once again and thank you for always being there with us. Morning Spring coming in from Western Spring Television, channels 190 on the Star Times DTT. Tunde IDOWU is my name, at Irresistible TD on Twitter. And definitely, as I always say, let's plug along and let's discuss. There's quite a whole lot to talk about this morning. You can follow us on all our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Western Spring Television. We are live and booming and blossoming on all social media handles. Today, as always, it promises to be exciting. If you're joining us for the very first time, I can assure you that, you have a bumper ride with us. You know how we do things. We'll kick things off first with the headlines making the round from the dailies that we've got with us here this morning. I've got quite a whole lot. I will be reeling them out. And without further ado, joining me via Zoom this morning to analyze everything we will be doing at this moment in time, I have a journalist by excellence, and also I have he is a civil rights activist, a policy analyst in the house. Comrade OLOGUN is joining me via Zoom. I'd like to say good morning to you, comrade. Thank you most sincerely for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Something we'd like to do with you.
Thank you. Let's check things out from the pages of the Punch newspaper for today. And obviously, this is common to all the dailies this morning, except it's going to be a brand new company, a newspaper company that is just resurrecting today that wouldn't pick up this news. The big bold headline from the pages of the Punch newspaper says, audit report nails Adamu Omishore as Tinubu governors shop for new chair. There are two writers associated to that story. Aggrieved NWC members, as the National Working Committee members, welcome Adamu's removal. NEC meeting postponed indefinitely. Kiari Funtua take temporary charge. New leaders to emerge at emergency convention. Comrade, help me out here. What do you feel is going on with the ruling All Progressive Congress when it comes to party politics at this moment in time?
Well, thank you very much. Just like I think I knew what was going to happen. I said it clearly on the presentation yesterday that Adamu, who is the actual chairman of the APC, had a few hours or at most a few days left. And of course, by the end of yesterday, we also saw how it all played out, and himself and the secretary of the party, who unfortunately is one of our own in the state, also by your Bishop, had to throw in the towel to allow for new individuals to emerge as the chairman and the secretary of the party. But to put this issue into perspective, this did not start yesterday. Whatever we saw yesterday is just an accumulation of events and actions, or inactions as the case may be, that have started long before now. Perhaps let's get our mind back to the pre-primary election of the APC. You will recall that there was a lot of plot trading, there was a lot of shenanigans that played out the pre-convention of that party. And the high point of it was Adamu, the other chairman of the party, waking up from one side of the bed one beautiful morning and announcing the then Senate president of the ninth Senate as the candidate of the party. He was unable to differentiate between the choice and the choice of the party, because obviously himself and his cabal, the Senate president then, was their choice. But if you are saying somebody was the choice of the party, it could only have been decided at the meeting of the NEC or at the convention. But he allowed his self-interest to overrule the objective of being the chairman. And eventually, the candidates didn't win. I think it's got one vote or thereabouts. Now primary for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu emerging as the candidate of that party. That was when the seat of discord had been sown. That was the day, that was the beginning of the countdown to the exit of Adamu as the party chairman, whether you like it or not. That's on one side. Because no matter what, whatever romance seems to have happened between himself and the president, ever since the president was inaugurated, are just eye service. It's just an attempt not to be seen as being vengeful. And he also recall that even after President Bola Tinubu emerged as the president, he had stood against the choice of the president and by extension the takeover of the party a couple of times. You remember that he came out of sometimes ago to announce that he is not in support of the leadership of the party as announced on the floor of the Senate and the House of Rep. And he had to have a meeting with the president, with the secretary of the later that night to resolve that issue. So these are pointers to the fact that the days of ANALYST were numbered because he cannot continue to be against the choice and the decision of the party leader, who by the provision of the constitution of their own party is the president of the nation. That's number one. Number two, you also recall that there have been allegations of financial problems around himself and the primaries. Each of the presidents
we seem to
contested the primary of the election on 200 million naira. They paid 100 million naira to collect form, and I think if my record serves me right, about 17 or 18 individuals participated or collected form in the primary election. If you multiply 100 million by 17 or thereabouts, you know, of course, what figure that gives.
Absolutely.
And that was not all. Governors, House of Rep members, senators, House of Assembly members, everyone that contested the primary election across the entire country paid some amount of money to the headquarters of the APC, which was erroneously being won by ANALYST and Secretary of the party. Because you will recall that there have been cries of powers by members of the NEC, particularly the vice chairman of the party from the Northwest, have not stopped shouting that ANALYST are running the party like their private entity. So if you put all of this together, a reasonable person, a political calculator, will understand that the beginning of the end was there for ANALYST. So that it happened all of a sudden. I can tell you for free that if ANALYST had failed to resign from their offices 2 nights ago, the next meeting of yesterday will have forcefully removed them, and that would have been more embarrassing. So it was more the soft landing for them to have thrown the towel by resignation and not being shown the way out by the neck of the party. But today, this goes to say something to us as a people, that these politicians aren't different from one another. They are who they are true to time. They are who they are true to character. If you look at the PDP too, it's been from one crisis to the other. The election management, somebody embezzled campaign fund, and all of that. In the APC, it is the same. That means we do not have true party system in Nigeria. What we have a special purpose vehicle for election. Because if you have a strong party system, no individual will dare turn himself to a law. We saw what happened Republican Party in the US. You know, because you are the chairman of the party, assume the position of the god in that party, you are simply a chairman. But because of the kind of democracy we run in Nigeria, immediately you become the head of an organization or the chairman of the party, you assume that everything starts and resolves and ends with you. And that is the lesson to Nigeria, that we should take our destiny to our hand and not leave our destiny into the hand of these players that call themselves politicians.
Comrade, looking at this story here and what we heard yesterday, the former party chairman, Abdullahi Adamu, was not at the meeting. Omishore was at the meeting yesterday, but stormed out in annoyance when the acting chairman, Kyari, stated what he needed to state. Now, where do you think the APC will go from here?
Of course, the provision of the party constitution of the APC, the little that I know of it is clear. You cannot have a substantive chairman or a secretary. And if those are not the only 2 vacant positions in the APC now. There are 4 vacant positions in the neck of the APC now. So I remember that the deputy welfare officer died a couple of months ago. And another, the assistant publicity secretary also resigned. Now the chairman is out. The secretary is another 4 vacant policy within the National Elective Committee of the party. And as such, it is difficult to have 4 vacant policies in the neck. But the provision of the constitution is clear. The only organization or the only city that can fill that convention, I mean, that can fill those positions is the convention. So what they're likely going to do is to go for a midterm convention. Don't forget that if Adamu and Oshodi have not been shown the way out, they should have been running the party for the next 3 or 4 years, as the case may be. So what they are likely going to do now is to call for a midterm convention of the party to fill in this post. And it simply also means that the position of the chairman, the secretary, and the other two, either those filled by those who have been either removed now or resigned, will have to be filled by someone from their geographical division. That means that whoever will eventually be the chairman of the party will have to come from the north, central, or northwest, where Adamu is from. Whoever will become the next secretary will have to come from the southwest, where Oshodi is from. Because those offices are already allotted or allocated to specific regions of the country. So it's not the first time that the chairman of the party or the secretary of the party will remember what happened in the case of the former chairman of the PDP too. So effort will not fall. The new guys at the end of the affair will continue to run the party. And I can assure you that with what played out yesterday, what we saw is the hand of Esau and the point of Jacob and the opposite. The president cannot separate himself. So what played out yesterday, those people could not have had the audacity to have gone ahead to take such without the covert approval of the president. And if that is the case, which the game will continue, because it's not for us, it's for them, it's a game. So the game will continue until the midterm convention is called for, and then the position will be filled. And of course, you and I know that from available information, the position of the chairman is likely to be filled by the former governor of Nasarawa State, Al Makura, and one other person that has been touted as people likely, I mean, the former president governor too, of Plateau, that's Lalong, who was the chairman of the campaign committee. None of these two are likely to be emerge as the next chairman of the party, depending on who eventually covers the favor of the president.
We'll keep our fingers crossed and let's see what plays out from there. But let's move on quickly. There is this picture on the front page of the Punch newspaper still, and the headline there says, Army intercepts Anambra-bound truck with ammunition. One thing that surprises me is that the way these ammunitions were they were put together, they were packaged, one wouldn't have really known that such things were inside that truck. But the intelligence of the men of the Nigerian army to have been able to intercept this truck, and I look at the ammunitions right here, the pictures, it shows quite a large cache of arms, ammunition, coming in from Mali. Is this not an aspect that we have been talking about, that our borders are porous?
When I saw that news yesterday, my heart skipped because I asked myself, are we in a war situation?
Absolutely.
Because it's only in a war situation that you can see this single cache of arms. I think to 25 mm red and white edge bullets and the likes in about 200 something packs, which amounted to about 20,000 in pieces. Look, for how long are we going to continue like this as a people? If this set of ammunition has found its way, I think the definition was Anambra State or so. Yeah. If it has found its way to Anambra State or any part of the East, this becomes tools in the hands of the non-state actors, the so-called IPOB or ESX or what you call them. They are simply non-state actors. And the question would be, what do they want to do with those things? Are they going to be killing all the animals in all the bushes around the south? Everything not. They will be using this to kill and maim their own person. How do you go to bed as a human being, knowing that it is not in the course of duty, it is not in self-defense, that you are taking innocent lives simply because you are pursuing an agenda that is unlikely to see the light of the day? They are not killing Yorubas, they are not killing Hausa, they are killing themselves. So how do you eliminate your own people and expect prosperity as a region? That's number one. It that's me. Number two is that the fact that the Nigerian military was able to act on intelligence to intercept that amount of ammunition coming into the south shows that our military system has more than enough capacity to protect us. They have more than enough means and wherewithal to ensure that provision of arms and ammunition stop. Because what they have done yesterday is a pointer to that fact. Over time, with the staff of information, or they have had orders from above that prevent them from being able to do their job. Because have presentation or have presentation whereby even when such as it, a single phone call from the powers that be would ask them to pass to the target, to never make it to the needs. So which means this is about leadership. This is about capacity. This is about the fact that we get it right with leadership. If we get it right with information, we have competent hands in the military that can protect us as a people. The third lesson from that is where the ammunition is coming from. Mali, which is part of the country in West Africa. So when we talk about collaboration of security, when we talk about collaboration of intelligence, when we talk about collaboration in economy and leadership, these are the things we are talking about. I can assure you that if further investigation is carried out, Mali might not have been the originator of those catcher of arms. It might end up being a route. It might have come in from Russia, from other parts of the world, using Mali as just a route into the country. Because these criminals must have done their survey to look at what routes lead into Nigeria that is most porous.
Absolutely.
They must have identified their own routes, and they must have seen that the Mali-Nigeria route is porous, and they chose that route. That necessarily does not mean, because what I know of the military strength of Mali does not give room for conviction that such a catcher of arms could have come from there. So it's most likely that Mali itself was simply a route. But this tells us that if our leaders are sincere across Africa, if our leaders can collaborate, if our leaders can be genuine in their intention to protect and aid peace in Africa, we can put an end to insurgency. Because people that are running are not from the kind, they are not from the groups, they are from neighboring countries. Even if they are not citizens of those neighboring countries, they make their way to those neighboring countries. If there's a collaboration in security effectiveness, we can be protected. People not just in Nigeria, but Africa as a whole.
Okay. Wow. We just hope the needful, because if this large cache of ammunition had gotten into the society, only God knows what destruction this would have caused at this moment in time. One other story here, amongst other stories from the pages of the Punch newspaper, says suspended EFCC chair spends 33 days in custody. I'll ask why. If he's guilty of something, why is he not being charged to court? We saw what the court did with Emefiele. It was then the DSS now decided to take him to court and what have you. But why do we just why does these agencies like to just keep one in custody and not do the needful, charge them to court? If they are found guilty, let's know where they're going, rather than just keep them without doing anything. Oh boy. Okay. In the case of while we're still trying to get back to Comrade OLOGUN, we think we lost signal with him. We will be back with him. But let me just check out some other stories making the round from the pages of Punch newspaper still this morning. Poultry farms shutting down over high maize price. That's credited to PAN, Poultry Association of Nigeria, speaking there this morning. I am a victim of that. I know what it means. It's really, really, really expensive at this moment in time. And on the red strip of the Punch newspaper, lover, prophet to die by hanging for killing LASU undergraduate. Boy, I remember one part of the Bible that says there were some people at the end, till end, some people will come in sheep's clothing, whereby they are wolves. There are so many prophets and prophets these days. We don't know who to believe. But then this one, him and his lover will die by hanging for killing LASU undergraduates. I don't know why. On the top strip of the Punch newspaper, federal government grants 56 import licenses as fuel consumption drops. Yeah, I know what that means. It's really on the high side now. So everybody tends to know that, okay, if it's not like that, if it's not so important, I am going to be taking my car. I would rather just take a bike or take a korope, as we call it right here in Osun State. But it's not everywhere. you go about with the cars these days. And moving on still, anthrax. Government plans nationwide animal vaccination. And I want to appeal to us as individual citizens, please, let's boil our meat, poultry, chicken, turkey, pig, whatever we are cooking as meat or as food, most especially when it comes to animals that we want to consume. It's at that moment in time that we really need to boil them and boil it real good. Anthrax is really in town, and whoa, I know what it means to vaccinate all my livestock at this moment in time, but we just appeal, and we appeal that federal government at all levels, veterinary doctors will please do the needful, and please, let's all have all these animals vaccinated. And also, we're moving to the other side. Another story here. Politicians flooding government house, distracting me. That's credited to Akwa Ibom governor speaking there. Obviously, this is the moment that everybody's lobbying for one thing or the other. But then we just hope the needful will be done. Let's stop distracting Mr. Governor. I meet so many other governors in the country. I know that's how you get visitors. Visitors will come in day out. And moving on to another paper daily this morning, the Punch newspaper. Virtually, it's all common. Most of the stories are common to each other, and I would just read all them out and not really expatiate. But hopefully, if I can get Comrade Ayologun back online, it will bring it. Okay, Comrade Ayologun is back on the line. Thank you, Comrade. Thank you for joining me again. Okay, while I wait for confirmation properly, let's. Oh, great! Thank you. So one day, someday, all this will be well thought of and well sorted out in Nigeria. We will have what's it called? Internet will be as it is, as it has to be. Thank you for joining me. Let's look at other stories making the rounds quickly from the pages of the Nation newspaper. From the pages of the Nation newspaper, let me reel out some of the old stories, but virtually they are all the same. It's about APC's top position, why Adamu Omishori lost out. A writer there says lack of accountability, poor leadership allegations, cause of resignation. Kiari Funta take over in acting capacity. Almakura Keke Meke maybe replacement. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Then coming further down, INEC, Tinumbu, Abuja residents not superior to other Nigerians. A writer there says PDP LP lied on electronic result collation. That's concerning the general election that took place some months ago. And also, on the red strip of the Nation newspaper, drop plan to hike electricity tariff. Man cautions. What do you make of that, Comrade Ayologun? We heard that the points at which DISCOs, NEG, the electricity regulators are saying, hey, there's going to be a hike in electricity tariff. But I don't know, maybe the constant electricity isn't there. And there is the proposal of this hike from the pages of the Nation newspaper this morning. Look, are we just going to be paying for what we don't get? This story is virtually common to all the papers, but I'm taking this from the Nation newspaper this morning. Comrade Ayologun, are you still with me there?
Yeah, I'm with you, and I can tell you for a fact that there's a limit to what a person can take. There's a limit to what the people can.
Absolutely.
Can take. And I hope that the leadership of this country are not convicted of the past, that the people's revolution could be such that will consume them. We've seen it happen in Cyprus, we've seen it happen in other of the country. The revolution of the people is such that it's not organized, the revolution of the people is such that it's not timed, the revolution of the people is such that it consumes everything that have the semblance of wealth or affluence around it. This is a time when Nigerians are battling seriously with the cost of fuel. Sometimes I ask myself if the same thing has changed with the amount of money that I get to spend on fuel, not minding all the needs of the family, health, and what have you. Now you want to compound their problem with the cost of electricity. It will get to a time, if care is not taken, and if our leaders are not proactive enough, that people will hit the streets, and no amount of bullets, no amount of armor tanks will send them back in, because it will be for them the choice between freedom and death. Look, we don't even have access to this electricity. There is no reason, as blessed as we are as a people, why an average Nigerian should not have access to electricity 24/7, 24 hours of the 7 days of the week. But there are places in this country, if I don't know someone, I know of a better part of Ondo State where they do not even have idea of what electricity is in months. If at all it flashes, they will clap their hands and be grateful. But they are forced. They are forced to pay for electricity that they are not using. For God help you, you do not have a prepaid meter in your house. On a monthly basis, they will bring you bills of something thousand.
Estimated.
Ask yourself, what is the cost of the meter itself? That an household will have to pay 40,000 or more as cost of electricity that is not even readily available for them to use at the time they want it. But we have a conniving government. We have a compromising leadership. Who, because many of them have vested interest in these companies, many of them are shareholders and stakeholders in these discos and what have you. Once these guys bring proposal to their table for expansion or for increase in their tariff, they pay along, because the more the people pay, the more the other person pay, the more wealth it turns them. There is a time coming that people will become aware of this, and that time, if care is not taken, when the people choose to resolve, it's going to be the choice between death and freedom for them. And at that time, God help whosoever is the leader, because people will not care whose us is God. Our leaders should not continue to take us for granted. Our leaders should not continue to make life miserable for the people. There's a limit to how.
Wow.
What a human being can.
16. Yeah, that's correct. But
I think I'm not. Ayologun is network is kind of like. I just hope if Ayologun is back, please, my director, my producer, let me know because network seemed to be not too palatable this morning. But while I'm expecting to get Ayologun back online, let me just reel out some other stories making the rounds from the pages of the Nation newspaper for this morning. And on the bottom strip, that's a red column there. Varsity workers demand 50 billion naira earned allowances. I hope we're not going back in here. And I would really have wanted Comrade Ayologun to help me out here. My director, is Ayologun back online? Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Quickly, looking at this story here on the bottom strip of the Nation newspaper, it says, varsity workers demand 50 billion naira earned allowances. Are we not probably heading for another long strike if this is not approved?
that's mad.
Hello, Comrade Ayologun. Oh boy. Okay. I can't get. It's my network is just fluctuating. All right, moving on the top strip of the Nation newspaper, we have database of 15 million poor Nigerians, says agency, and there's a writer there. It says how the $800 million will be transferred to beneficiaries. We're waiting. We keep our fingers are crossed, and we are waiting. And still staying with the Nation newspaper, ex-army chief Bamayi says troops should crush bandits. All right, yeah. We just hope and we wish them the very best. What are they waiting for? The needful should be done. Crush bandits, and then let's have peace in this nation. There's so much tension. Everybody's a little bit nervous here. Quickly, let me move over to the pages of Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust newspaper is next, and a couple of headlines that are going to be different from what I had reeled out earlier. And the big bold caption on the pages of Daily Trust newspaper says, tough time for families as inflation soars to 7-year high. That's honestly, it's just a grace, just as people will say, because looking at how to be able to get 3 decent meal on the table for one's family, it's just grace. It's just grace. A couple of writers is associated to that story. It says, food beyond reach that's credited to citizens, honestly. And Kwara, Lagos, Kogi was hit. Zamfara, Sokoto, Borno, list. Women begin strike in Taraba. You want to know why? Figures, not reflection of reality. That's credited to an expert. Full details is on the pages of Daily Trust newspaper. And that's the big bold caption there. And still moving on, NGX Group to fast-track NNPC listing. GT Bank named best in Nigeria by Euromoney. Now, 4 days after NDLEA fails to produce killer of 2-year-old boy in Delta State. We heard there that stray bullet and what, but we don't know how. If you don't cock your rifle, if you don't probably press, if you don't shoot, it's definitely not going to just go out by itself. So 2-year-old boy, his future has just been brought to a halt just like that. That's really, really sad. And on the bottom strip of the Daily Post newspaper, Enugu threatens to revoke license of traders observing sit at home. Then they fear for their lives, man. But and on the top strip of that same paper, Emefiele, Arewa leader in South, wife detained by DSS, relatives protest. Arewa leader in South, wife detained by DSS, relative protest. And other story which is virtually common to all the papers this morning. Kyari takes over as acting APC chair. Our fingers are crossed, we're watching, and we're really, really watching. Quickly, moving on to the Nigerian Tribune. The Nigerian Tribune newspaper is next, and just reel some of the headlines making the round from the pages of the Nigerian Tribune. How Adamu lost out as APC chairman. A couple of writers is associated to that story. His many sins. VP loyalist, Kyari now acting chairman. Deputy National Secretary replaces Omishore. Special convention to hold soon. Everybody's waiting. We're waiting. And still with the pages from Nigerian Tribune, 2,300 ghost workers removed from payroll. 200 million naira saved. That's credited to Abia government speaking there. Ondo Council vice chairman dies a week after chairman's death. Wow. Okay, moving further down, ban on sit-at-home, market, banks, schools open as Enugu governor monitors compliance. Okay, still moving on this morning, Presidential Election Petitions Committee, PDP accuses Tinubu's lawyers of intimidating judiciary in written address. That's from the Nigerian Tribune. Customs intercepts arms, ammunition at Lagos port. Just as the one going to Anambra State was intercepted by men of the Nigerian army, gallant men of the Nigerian army. And we will say kudos to them, just as we say kudos to men of the custom as well. And a couple of writers associated to that story. Troops impound truckload of ammunition going to Anambra. Police seize 13 million naira cannabis in Lagos. Wow. On the top strip of the paper, same paper, Nigerian Tribune, high food prices push inflation rate to 22.79%. Wow. And federal government confirms first case of anthrax in Nigeria. Poultry industry on verge of total collapse. Pan cries to Tinubu, we are begging, Mr. President. A writer there says wants him to intervene in allocation of 40,000 empty of maize. Wow. we are truly appealing. Mr. President should kindly help we poultry farmers. This is really, really, really needed at this moment in time. And just as it is, very shortly, we'll hook up with our guests who will be talking quite a whole lot with us on the program this morning. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We'll take it up from here. I'll be back with my guests.
Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905, Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker, and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Western Spring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history.
Evelyn Ohiole,
Hi.
King Eve. How are you today?
I'm good, I'm fine, I'm alive.
Born 16th September 1923, named Harry Lee Kwan and known as Lee Kuan Yew, he was often addressed by his initials of LKY. Lee Kuan Yew was a barrister and the first Prime Minister of Singapore between 1959 and 1990. Educated at Raffles Institution from 1936 to 1940 and the Fitzwilliam House between 1947 and 1949, Lee Kuan Yew established a highly effective and anti-corrupt governance system that midwives the transformation of Singapore into a high net worth income economy within a generation. He never hid his exception to Western mode democratic ideal, which he believed had not assisted developing nations to attain good government. Before his death on 23rd March 2015, the People's Action Party, which he founded, had used his political influence to establish the United World College of Southeast Asia to expand his economic ideas among countries that constitute the Asian Tiger. Western Spring Television identifies Lee Kuan Yew as a major character in history.
Thank you for being there with us. It's still Morning Spring coming to you live from Western Spring Television. We sincerely appreciate you always being there with us. At this moment in time, let's go further. There is this thing that has been in the society. We've been hearing what the plans of the federal government to give 8,000 naira palliative, 8,000 naira to 12 million Nigerians on a monthly basis for the next 6 months. And we want to look at these palliative measures in the phase of fuel subsidy, proposed electricity tariff hike, forex merger, quite a whole lot of things. And with the speed at which inflation is at this moment in time, looking at the figure about 22.79%, it's really, really high. And food, to put 3 decent meals, not even square meals, 3 decent meals on the table these days is cause for concern in our dear nation, Nigeria. But then these palliatives, how will they be shared to 12 million households? Are we just looking at just 12 million households that are poor in Nigeria? Recently, we heard that 133 million Nigerians are multidimensionally poor. But before I just keep reeling out all these statistics, it's a pleasure to have a former editor, Nigerian Tribune, who is also a legal practitioner, joining me via Zoom this morning. And I want to say thank you most sincerely. And good morning to Mr. DAPO OGUNWUSI. Thank you for joining me, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Always a pleasure having you. Thank you. And I don't know, first of all, on a lighter note, sir, I just believe, and I sincerely believe, you're not going to be part of that 12 million Nigerians awaiting 8,000 naira. But what do you make of that? Can that cushion anything at this moment in time? 8,000 naira.
Well, to be honest, the idea of government intervening economically, directly like that, is not new to our country. In the peak of the COVID crisis, the American government printed $3 trillion and shared to, every household. And in the UK, I know interventionist endeavors like that have continued even now. But they have their yardsticks, they have their, infallible determinants of who is entitled and who is not. In Nigeria, we copy things. It's like some of these programs are really not bad on their own. But the way we internalize these things, it will be so shocking even to the people who originated it. During the COVID crisis, you had the minister for what's the Ministry of Sharia?
Humanitarian Affairs.
Humanitarian Affairs saying she had so many billions, and that every one of us had collected our share. And people started looking at themselves, when did I collect my own? I mean, was I asleep or something? But at the end of the day, you now had a crisis in the same 2020, when people were digging out large tons of supplies from the private silos thoughts of political figures and powerful individuals. So it means these items were actually, shared around. But somehow some people locked them up. The same problem is about to unfold itself in even more terrible dimension now, because you have a government that is run by people of very peculiar background. I say peculiar because you can be sure that in no time people will become agents for distributing 8,000 naira. And they may give people 8,000 naira and collect 4,000 naira, as kickbacks. You can guarantee that politicians will start lobbying for such contracts as palliative distributors. And if they use banks, you see, the issue of our banks is so ridiculous in the sense that our banks can never give you accurate records of who and who have money and who do not have money, and the reasons are there. Because we run such a distorted economy. You can never use any statistics specifically to determine those who are poor and those who are rich. With the exception of those who have millions, in their accounts. All the others are difficult to determine, depending on their circumstances. So I do not know what yardstick they want to deploy. That is one perspective. The other perspective is, are there not better things to do? Interventionist programs that can affect the cost of food in the market. Mass transit buses. Deliberate address of the infrastructural difficulties in the rural areas. Things that can improve the lives of farmers. Okay, what of the perennial crisis of herdsmen, and farmers that have been clashing all over the country? You do not address things like that can easily springboard the supply of cheap food in our markets. You are talking of just giving money to. You saw the 10,000 naira interventionist program. They called it what is the one being run by the former vice president.
Trader money.
Trader money. It turned out a fiasco. And there is no reason for expecting this one to be any better. In fact, it's bound to be worse. So, due to the fact that we do not have facilities for determining who is entitled, and the fact that there are better ways to address this kind of problem, I think it is a program that should be treated with suspicion and restraint.
Now, looking at what an agency has stated here, that they have a database of 15 million poor Nigerians, and looking at this 8,000 naira, I know you stated that fact that it's probably going to be a washout again, but why do you think the federal government is proposing this? Looking at what had happened during the last administration of President Muhammadu Buhari and the trader money that we just made mention here. Even on a good day, if I give my wife 8,000 naira, sir, if you give mommy 8,000 naira, she will probably come home with all whatever she's going to buy in a 50 naira bag, and she will tell you this is 8,000 naira. And you wonder, how come? But I gave you 8,000 naira. How can 8,000 naira solve anything in Nigeria today? Why is government not looking towards things you have mentioned? Infrastructure, putting some respite, maybe through mass transit buses. Why not that? Do you think this is another political gimmick has been proposed by the federal government?
Well, let me quote a friend of mine, a very interesting friend of mine. He said the present government did not have the privilege of sharing money around during the election as they would love to. That this is the opportunity to. And this is the opportunity to rectify that. Well, we don't have to be that flippant, but the truth of the matter is that from what is on ground, it is very difficult to imagine that the money will go any distance with the average household. Because it's probably going to be enough to buy beef for the average support. So then when you have collected it once, you have to wait for another month. But I suspect strongly that what you are going to have is some people collect this month, next month it goes to the next group of people, because they are going to badly politicize it that it will be such a great shame. And there's nothing that can stop that on ground. Absolutely. Let me remind you, if you recall during Buhari's first regime in 1984, they introduced essential commodities, whereby they will take oil, milk, sugar, rice to government ministries, to cooperative societies, the jugular veins of human interactions like that. It attained some success also because there was a measure of military discipline involved. It was still a fiasco at the end of the day. Some people will still collect and go and sell at a higher rate than what obtained even in the markets. So I do not see this one working out. They have to find a way of affecting the economy with this fund that will bring down inflation. And that is the only thing that I believe will be credible. Okay, you say you want to give poor people palliatives. Who are those suffering most from fuel price hike? Is it the poor? I don't think so. The people who buy 50 liters of fuel just to go to the office and come back in a week, those ones are not poor. They're probably, medium level to affluent families. They are not going to get a penny from the way the entire palliative is being structured. And it is about fuel, the price of fuel. That is what brings about this palliative. It is tied to the price of fuel. The people who actually bought cheap fuel and who are now being forced to buy it at 300%, of the previous figure, they are going to be exempted. They won't get a penny. So they will lose on both sides. So you look at the entire program, how it is conceived, and then you puzzle. But I am worried that it may end up in the pockets of politicians. And like my friend said, I like to quote him once again, that maybe it's an opportunity to get back to those who
couldn't get money during the election.
Couldn't get money.
Oh, goodness me. Well, seriously, is this what we need at this moment in time?
Frankly, it is not. It is not, but you see, there is so much to worry about in Nigeria.
Yeah.
But many people are always looking at the wrong end, They are ignoring the real problem. The president, Bola Tinubu, has had a long career of honing his own philosophy, of letting people know what he stands for. Everything he has propagated as being his own personal philosophy or concept of life has been abandoned. He fought tooth and nail against fuel price hike and the withdrawal of subsidy. He has always been against this, free fall of the national currency. Almost the things that he said he hated are the things that he is doing now. Why? And I think the problem may be deeper than we thought. Probably because of the controversial circumstances of his ascendancy. He has had to do deals with some forces that are behind the scene. Because I cannot imagine somebody behaving like Rehoboam in the Bible. You come into power, and the very first day you got to power, economic difficulties, were springboarded by your deliberate policy, not accidental policy. The next thing, you went to the forex market. Look, these are desirable things, to be honest, but they are good things that are done the wrong way. And when you do a good thing, and when you do a right thing in the wrong way, it's as good as doing the wrong thing. He's talking about palliatives now. He should have thought about that. He should have reasoned that out. He should have streamlined that before removing subsidy. And then you ask yourself, was there a subsidy? It has been proved that since 2019, they didn't pay a penny in subsidy to any importer. What they did, you look, originally when Abacha introduced this importation of fuel, I cannot remember, it must have been around 1997 or so, or 1996. Abacha said that Nigeria was producing 2.4 million barrels of oil in a day. 400,000 barrels was being used for domestic consumption. And that the 400,000 barrels was going to be used to import finished products, and that it was sufficient. I was a journalist at that time, and I knew what was going on. Look, after some time, they just lumped the 400,000 barrels of domestic consumption, they lumped it together with the export. Commodity with the export quota, and then they now started paying some people cash for importing the finished product. So there was already a divergence of the original intention. And when they started to do that, they were doing it in such a typically Nigerian way that they were just piling trillions upon trillions of money. They just bring your own invoice, they will pay. Bring your own invoice, they will pay. Bring your own invoice. There were cases, I'm sure, of people who didn't import a single gallon of fuel who became billionaires because of the mode in which the entire swap, in which the entire program was organized. Then in 2019, Buhari changed that. He went back to the original model, whereby they were using domestic quota to exchange for the finished products. That is why, as at the time, they said they were cancelling subsidy. There was no subsidy in operation. It was an exchange. Okay, but the truth of the matter remains that it is still money, because you know that crude oil is a prime product in the world market. So it is still our money. Now, if it is our money, the complaint basically was that people were smuggling it. That is ridiculous to be in the list, because it's just like telling me that there is a lot of armed robbery because some people were coming into the country to commit the crime, and then it is the fault of the citizen. It is because of their own policing system. It is because we have no customs. The only customs we have is the customs at the seaport, and those who run after Tokumbo gas. There is nothing they do at the border to protect the nation's economy and resources. I think sincerely that there was no need for subsidy, but it should have been done in such a way that everybody would understand and people would be made to see the results of that program immediately or almost immediately. Look at it this way.
Yes.
Like runaway inflation. People earn much less to pay for much more. So there's double inflation. There's inflation on the right, inflation on the left. And the whole thing borders on the income of the average Nigerian. It is your money that is being taken away. If you add, look, I remember a time when there was a rent the rent was 1.2 million, and it earned over £5,000 in the year 2007. Today, that rent is still 1.2 million, and it earns barely £1,000. It is the money it is your money that is being stolen. That is the effect. They just steal your money so that government will use it for their own, projects and programs. Okay, the states are trying to come in and say we want to introduce palliatives, but was it the states that removed subsidy? I mean, the whole thing is just like a kamikaze. Everybody's just behaving like. I don't understand how I can put it. It's like a jigsaw. You slap the servant, he kicks the dog. Is it the states that started the problem? Shouldn't the federal government itself have introduced, a workable parameter as to how to address this problem? Now the only solution they have is 500 billion, and then they will share it among 12 million families. But if it is about palliative on the withdrawal of fuel subsidy, you are sharing the money to the wrong parties, because it is not the poor that suffer immediately from the withdrawal of subsidy. No, the poor didn't buy fuel. They bought some kerosene. Those who bought gas, those who bought petrol every day, every week, they are the ones who directly and immediately suffer. And there's nothing. And I can assure you, at the end of it, those are the people who will still collect the money. You can be sure of that.
So, let me take us back a little bit. We remember during 2020, during the COVID-19 era, where palliatives were stored at various warehouses and what have you, and eventually Nigerians got angry, began to loot all these warehouses and stuff like this. I remember what my analyst on the newspaper this morning said, look, he hopes it's not going to come to a point where there will be rebellion, because at this moment in time, Nigerians are being pushed to the wall. I myself and with you, sir, we know that 8,000 naira cannot last 2 days for a family of probably 3 or 4. So if the federal government is now saying 8,000 naira and the palliatives are still not there, don't you think this is just a moment for the federal government and government at all levels to say, for them, this is a show off to the world that we are trying to do something?
Yes, you see, the controversial circumstances of Tinubu's ascendance is a big problem. And I think that all these things he is doing, they are not his own artifice. I think he's doing the bidding of certain powerful Western influences. And he expects them to support him to remain in power. I mean, that is the stark truth. Now, about rebellion, Nigeria is a most unusual case because it has people that are capable of sustaining any level of suffering without reacting. And when you are dealing with such people, you have to be lucky all the time. We also what happened during the NSAS when people were killing policemen and cooking them and eating them. People who never ate even a cat before. It shows you there is an animal in every man. And they have to be careful the way they handle crises like this. It's only, you have to be lucky all the time, because when you are unlucky once, that is the end. Although you can see that they have strategic ways of handling issues like that. They have won the security people onto their side. the police have freedom to do everything they want, and their salaries are being increased almost every 2 years now. The same thing for the military. Look, when some people left power as service chiefs, look at it. The number of jeeps they gave each of them. And the other emoluments. And then look at the judiciary. This is very interesting. They have increased the retirement age of judges. They are also giving to the NJC 35 billion or the 500 billion they are sharing about. I mean, this is vote buying. Technically, it's corruption. Why is it that nobody thought of all these people before? It is when they need them now, because they are bound to need them if things get out of hand. So they are winning them to their sides. They're probably going to give two cars, two jeeps to every judge now, because there are only about 1,000 judges in the whole country anyway. So when they have won those people to their side, you just see there is a class problem. Nobody will want to do anything to dislocate. However, I know there are credible people on the bench. It is not everybody who can be bought on the bench. And I have absolute confidence that the Nigerian judiciary will surprise all of us. So you see, you cannot bottle people up permanently like that. At a point in time, it gives. And when it gives, you see the consequences are always deleterious. They are the ones building up this kind. And you see, the Western powers who are behind all this, they are asking Tinubu to do things they will never practice in their own countries. They will not even think about them. But they see us as guinea pigs. People to use for experiments to see how far, because I cannot imagine America saying, look, there was rigging, and they were going to impose visa ban on the people who are involved in the rigging and so on and so forth, only to wake up the following week and say they were going to embrace the government that came out of that rigging. Tremendous.
But before we go, Mr. OGUNWUSI, let's quickly look at, we're looking at the split at which 12 million households to get 8,000 naira monthly for the next 6 months. And let's look at what the humongous amount of money being proposed if it has not been signed, if it has not been disbursed. Because most of the time we tend to hear much later that certain amount has been budgeted for certain things. Looking at the amount of money budgeted for our legislators, the lawmakers, National Assembly members to buy bulletproof cars at this period in time where subsidy is really a painful thing to each and every Nigerians. Are this set of people, do they have this human capacity if this is the next step of things they should go about doing?
Yes, there are two dimensions to that. The first dimension is that it is clear that from this set of people in power, the cost of governance is not going to reduce. Because if you are budgeting 40 billion to buy jeeps for people, not to talk of other emoluments, other allowances, other requisites of office. This money is not going to come from Chad or Niger, it's going to come from the National Treasury. So the cost of running government is going to spiral out of control. There's no doubt from the posture that you see on ground. And you can agree with me, or you may choose not to disagree, that it is just bribery. They are just trying to get everybody around the table. Now, the other perspective, the other dimension to it is that should these people have come first? So the first thing we had was that there was going to be 114% increase in the salaries of the executive. And at a time when the people who elected them, their masters, their employers, were groaning to eat just once in a day. Now they have come. The next one was about service chiefs being given almost the entire national treasury as severance. Now we come to lawmakers, 40 billion naira jeeps. Look, it doesn't add up at all. It shows that there is no sense of urgency to address the national problem. The only thing about, palliatives and all these, what you call withdrawal of subsidy, it's just for some other private purpose. It has nothing to do with helping the country at all. And we have introduced one window for dollars and so on and so forth. Those things are not meant to help the poor. They're absolutely not meant to help the poor, because somebody was earning 30,000 naira, and the 30,000 naira could not buy a half tank of the smallest car. Okay, probably it could now, because that is 60 liters. But if you buy a tank of fuel, that is all. Come back next month. And some states are still not paying the 30,000 naira. Look, the situation is so stark that when you hear people talk, you just wonder, isn't the government itself hearing all of this? You see all kinds of articles in newspapers, in media, blogs, and so on and so forth, but they cannot be bothered. It's a shock.
Wow.
And they are starting on the wrong note. It's just like Rehoboam. I think I cited that example earlier on. He said that my father chastised you with a whip. I will chastise you with scorpions. I think the scorpions are out there on the streets. The scorpions are loose now. People who used to give me money before are now asking me for money. I mean, it's a shock. I don't know how far they want to go with that. But I don't think they have much room.
I don't know. It's all good. But, lastly, sir, let's look at the proposed minimum wage of 200,000 naira being proposed. Is this feasible, or is this realistic?
But that is not difficult. It is very realistic. And I will tell you how.
Yes, sir.
Look, I don't know why government worries itself the moment things are the way they are. Okay, it is 30,000 naira, right?
Yes, please.
They now want 200,000 naira. It's very simple. Look at the percentage, look at the ratio, and go to the forex market and introduce that ratio. That's all. It's very easy. You see, if today it is 1,000 naira to £1, and they were calling for maybe a 7-fold increase, so you just go there and make it 7,000 naira to £1. Very simple. That is if you have a government that is determined to irritate the people and to let the people know that they do not count. But a serious government would not go that far, because the 200,000 naira is probably the value of 30,000 naira when it was initially introduced. Yeah. Because 200,000 naira will give you, 200 pounds. I think that must have been the value of 200,000 naira about 10 years ago when they introduced 30,000 naira. That must have been the value of 30,000 naira there. So it's horrible.
Wow, it's amazing. I want to thank you most sincerely, sir. Always a pleasure having you join us on this show and all our shows right here at Western Spring Television, and also most especially Rave 91.7 FM. Mr. DAPO OGUNWUSI, a former editor, Nigerian Tribune, who is also a legal practitioner. Thank you most sincerely for your time, sir.
Thank you for tolerating me.
And when the 8,000 naira palliative, please notify me so that I can tell the world.
I will let you know. I will let you know on the way to the market.
Thank you most sincerely. Do enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
Enjoy your day.
Thank you, sir. And that's the way it's definitely going to look like today. I want to thank you for being there on the show with me. Morning Spring live from Western Spring Television. And we'll be back again tomorrow on another scintillating edition of the program. A big thank you to my director, my very amazing producer and the entire camera team. Thank you for being there. Tunde IDOWU is my name, at Irresistible TD on Twitter. I'll see you tomorrow. Good morning.
Sports is a culture on its own. It has its own language, its own people, with their own way of life. The world of sports is never void of actions, stories, dramas, and scandals. I guess you need a sports show that can walk the walk and talk the talk.
On this show, we answer all your sporting questions. The whens, the whys, the wheres, and even the what ifs. Sports Spring is that show that will give you that new lease of life you've been looking for in sport journalism. Join me, Joseph Atewe,
And your sports Amazon, Nengi Ernest.
on this station, Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Let's talk sports. Let's speak the most universal language of the world.
خواهشات ما و خوابهای من اینمی است که ما یک روز بتانم که از این فوتبال خود ما یک نام پیدا بکنم و یک نان حلال به دست بیارم. فوتبال جانم است. من میتونم که بخاطر فوتبال هر کار را قبول کنم، اما فوتبال الا کردن نمیتونم، چون من سر خود اطمینان دارم و 100% میفهمم که اینمی کارا میتونم کردن و یک روز از این من درآمد میتونم داشته و ان شاء الله که من میتونم. سلام، نام من رستم خیرخواه است. از شهر زیبای کابل، افغانستان هستم. 18 سال عمرم است. مدت 6 سال میشه در دلی جدید زندگی میکنم و مدت 4 سال میشه که من در تیاگراج استادیوم فوتبال پروفشنالی تمرین میکنم. ما از بسیار خردی شوق علاقه من به فوتبال بود، گرچه فامیل من زیادتر بازی‌های رسمی را خوش داشتن، رسمی می‌خواستن که بکنم، مثلا بوکس یا تکواندو یا موی تای، و بعداً من همیشه شوق علاقه من زیادتر به فوتبال بود. از 5 سالگی که من در افغانستان در ژیمنازیوم یا فوتبال میکنم، فوتسال دیگه با دوستای مبارک‌های یک جای میشدم، در پیش بلاک ما فوتبال میکردیم دیگه. بعداً امیر رقم شوق ما زیادتر شده به فوتبال و حالا ما میخوایم که یک پلیر خوب در فوتبال باشه. تمرینات ما خو هفته 3 روز است که ما روزهای دوشنبه، چهارشنبه و جمعه به تمرین میایم.
چی اگه اینا رو کلوری تو من رو ببینن یا خودی نمی عزیزی دفتر نکن میگیره.
در فامیلی خود ما در دلی جدید زندگی میکنیم. مادر جانم است، دو دانه بیدرکایم هستن و خوارک خردم است.
اگر عمر به پایت زد، اگر عمر به پایت زد، نمیکردم چی میکردم؟ وقتی که هندوستان آمدیم اولادا خرد بودن، ما وقت بلد نبودیم که مثلا مکتب دولتی کجاست، مکتب پرایوت شخصی کجاست، یا زیاد کورس ها رو تعقیب کنن. باز مکتب جای خود داره. تو مشق چیز باز ماناشون بگو. الف لام ره میم نون الرحمن الرحیم.
اونا زیادتر به خواب و آرزوی خود، هر کدام ما هر کی یک خواب و دریم علیحده داریم. هر کی خواب و دریمش علیحده است و اونا از ما زیاد تقویه میشن، زیاد موتیویت میشن. مرک میبینن اونا میخوان که نمی یکم یک کار بکنن.
رستم از طفولیت زیاد با استعداد بود در هر کار. یگانه چیزی که رستم جان میخواد که در آینده باشه، میخواد که یک فوتبالیست بسیار خوب باشه، یک بازیکن بسیار خوب فوتبال باشه. فوتبال بسیار دوست داره. آرزویش هم است. در پلی از او درس و تعلیم خودم زیاد علاقمند است برش و رشته خوبی که داره رسامی است که به رسامی بسیار علاقه زیاد هم داره و تا جایی که میبینیم یک قسمت کار خود پیش هم برده. در افغانستان حالات قسم بود که اگرچه از ظاهر معلوم میشد که حالات خوب است، اما وضعیت افغانستان کلا خراب بود. یعنی روزمره انتحار بود، انفجار بود، هر طرف بمب انفجار میکرد، مردم اذیت بود و اختطاف طفلا بسیار زیاد بود. دیگه به او خاطر ما چون خودم اوجا یک مادر تنها بودم همراه 4 تا طفلم، نمیتونستم زندگی رو به خوبی اوجا پیش ببرم. از خاطر نجات جان اولادایم و خودم ما خیستیم به طرف هندوستان سفر کردیم و آمدیم. یکی تو بازی که تو
اما خودم کار میکنم قدرش نیست.
نگل سرخ
در گل سرخ خونی دیگه گل است تنو قدرش نمیگیرم جان نمیشه تنو قدرش است کنی 4 تا
وقتی که در هندوستان آمدم ما خودم 14 ساله بودم. در اینجا که آمدم بسیار خوب فیلم میکردم، بسیار آرام بودم، تو از هر نگاه سیف خود فکر میکردم و اینجا بسیار خوب از ما. از افغانستان که فعلا خوب است، چون افغانستان به حد حالات خراب بود، نمیشد که آدم اونجا در اسپورت خود پیش بره. اگر اونجا در اسپورت هم پیش میرفتی یک نفر یافت میشد که تو را مانع میشد، میگفت تو برای اینقدر پیسه پیشنهاد میکنیم تو اسپورت الابتی میدان به ما بباز. باز خوجا نمیشد. انسان در دریم خود غلطی کردن نمیتونه، چون تو یک دریم داری که نمره پوره بکنی. و اینجا که ما آمدم یک زیاد خوب فیلم میکردم، چون اینجا هیچ تو کارا نبود، رشوت خوری و چیزا نبود. اینجا همه کی میتونست یک لیول بره، همه کی میتونست به زور و تالنت خود پیش بره و اینجا من بسیار خوب فیلم میکردم. کل تمرینات ما داخل تیاگراج استادیوم است. دیگه روزمره ما از 4 بجه تا 7 بجه شام تمرین میکنم. فعلا خو قدر ما پروفشنالی پشت کدام چیز نیستم که با ما بتونه وایب خوب بده. بعد ما کوشش خود زیاد میکنم، ما زیاد تمرین میکنم، ما زیاد کوشش میکنم که یک راه پیدا شه که مرا بتونه دگام خوبتر بهتر ساخته.
बॉल में जो बेसिक स्किल है वो उसकी कंफर्म थी, ठीक है ना, बट उसको थोड़ा टेक्निकल पार्ट उसको मेरे को बताना था। उसकी सबसे बड़ी स्ट्रेंथ ये है कि उसके अंदर एजिलिटी ज़्यादा है, स्पीड भी काफ़ी है, और अभी मैंने 1-2 जगह उसको मैचेस के लिए भी भेजा है। फिर